Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Path of Exile 2 video, and I'm going to do a quick recap of the reveal that we just saw, Path of Exile 2 endgame content and the early access. I will try not to waste your time by doing this as fast as I can. We just powered through a very long Q&A. Big shout out to CGD for that, by the way. Fantastic work. Mark and Jonathan as well. It was amazing. The intro cutscene, insane. There will be a link in the descriptions below to the entire content of this. There will be a link in the descriptions to my full reveal reaction as well that my editor Kick has posted earlier. However, so let's do the recap. Essentially, what we're going to do is there's going to be the way to access the early access. We'll start with that first. There's going to be a buy-in of $30 if you want to get access. We can actually just play this without sound in the background. It says a $30 buy-in to get the early access key. However, if you have spent $480 or more throughout your lifetime playing Path of Exile 1, you will already have instant access. The new supporter core packs that they have for the game is absolutely cracked, and I'll probably be eating noodles for the next couple of months. But yeah, so there's that little detail. However, I playtested PoE 2 multiple times, both ExileCon events as well as a couple times over at LA, in which I never got to test the Druid, which we'll not have access to. We'll have 6 different classes, and I will have a separate video in which I'll talk about each of those classes, starting with the Necromancer, or sorry, the Witch, and the absence of the Necromancer Ascendancy, actually. However, that's the scope of it, and they basically, when I playtested this in LA, especially when I did the couch co-op console test, it was amazing, but I brought a friend of mine who's literally not a gamer. And what he did was that he had no problems understanding and following along with how the game worked and learning it as we played. And that made me say consistently that the game is extremely new and newer player friendly. Then we saw this reveal. And don't get me wrong, I'm in love. Like, holy shit is all I'm saying. Absolutely astonishing. They said we're getting 3 acts, and then whatever content or state of the end game that they have is what we'll get. So it's like, that's what we'll have access to. That didn't sound like that was going to be a lot of content, and I was talking about it with some friends and other streamers, so we're like, yeah, we might only have content for like maybe December, and they've said that the expectation is that the early access will last about 6 months, give or take, right? And I was concerned that we would only have some content to power through for maybe a month and then be like, yo, what's up? What are we going to do now? So one of my hopes was that they were going to introduce more content during the early access so that we'd be in a position where we could get more content to play with, which it seems like they're planning to do based on what Jonathan said in this video, in this reveal stream. Fast forward a little bit and we get to see all the content they've actually included. So what they're going to do is they're going to have a 6-act campaign, which they're expecting players to be around, what, level 45 or whatever it was. And then there's going to be the massive endgame. However, they only have 3 acts. So what they're doing to make sure that we get natural progression from the campaign into the current state of the endgame is that they're reintroducing only for the early access this past system, 65 even, sorry, my bad. 65. So 45 was Act 3. That's it. So you get to around 45 after Act 3, and then another 20 levels for Act 4, 5, 6. But what they're doing to make sure that people get a natural progression into the current state of endgame is that they're going to allow us to do a secondary difficulty and do Act 1, 2, 3 again during early access, because the Acts 4, 5, 6 are not done. So that's why we're going to have that during early access exclusively. Okay? So I just want to make sure that people understand that is exclusively only for the early access. Later, it's going to be Act 1 through 6, and you're ending around level 65, and that's where the end game starts. That sounded like a pretty good idea to me. I think that was a fair take, so people get a natural progression level-wise into the end game content. And then they started revealing the end game content. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? There is such an insane, and I mean insane, amount of content that they're giving us in the actual early access. It was miles beyond what I could ever had hoped for and even remotely thought they would be capable of pulling off. there is an insane amount of endgame content that we have access to in early access. It's crazy. They have a bunch of different mechanics, and I'll talk about some recaps of most of them. I don't want to sit there and talk for 20-30 minutes. I'll try to keep myself short. Essentially, the big play is that they have an infinitely scaling atlas, if you will, where your map progression is based on like you traversing the world and restoring order to the society, if you will. It was absolutely insane to see how crazy big that is. And then they went on to go through the different crafting mechanics and methods that they have in that. And that's something that, again, kind of contradicted my first initial take with how insanely new and newer player-friendly the game is. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think that the game is extremely new player-friendly. And it's because of the UI and interface in the game helps newer and newer players understand the game so they can make valid decisions that is good. So I think it's a very good way to do it. However, there's the crafting system. Initially, they said that every crafting system that you have is meant to only make the item stronger, with the exception of, well, I believe it was the Chaos Orb, whatever it was, which removed a modifier and then added another one. But then they've said that all of the crafting methods were supposed to add a modifier to an item. But in this video, they're showing a Scour Orb and another method to making sure that's a metacraft, so that Scour would only apply to the prefixes or the suffixes, for example, which emphasizes more on this advanced, complex diversity of different crafting methods in PoE 1. And they also showed essences. The baseline essence would make an item and from normal into magic with a guaranteed modifier. And then there was another higher tier essence, which you could use on an already essence crafted item to make a magic item into a rare version with another guaranteed modifier. So there's a lot of these advanced, complex crafting mechanics already in play. Again, much easier for new and newer players to understand. I'm very excited for it, but it's nowhere near as simplistic and casual friendly as the initial playtest that I've been seeing, which was crazy cool to see. I'm very excited for this. And then they showed the endgame mechanics ranging from, there was just mechanic after mechanic after mechanic after mechanic. There's just an insane amount of content in early access that I don't even know how to describe it without, like, all I can tell you is watch the entire video, because I can sit there for the next 2 hours explaining these things. So all I'll say to keep this as a recap is that there's an obnoxious amount of content. And I think that the one thing I will mention that I think was really cool was the Trial of Ascendancy. Now, they are basically making the 2.0 version of certain mechanics like Breach, Ultimatum, Ritual, all these things, right? In the PoE 1, the way you ascend is you open up these trials, which will basically be your keys to unlock the access in the labyrinth for a sorrow. You go through the labyrinth on the normal difficulty, if you will, and then you get your first 2 ascendancy nodes, and then you do that in the next part of the campaign, and the next part, and then you do the last one in maps, right? So what then happened in PoE 2 is that you have, during early access, 2 choices, and on full launch, they said you have 3 different options. These options is to do a trial. The 2 that we're going to have access to in early access, one was Sanctum 2.0. And if you finish the Sanctum 2.0, you will be able to then ascend, and then you'll have to do a harder difficulty of that Sanctum to open up your next ascendancy nodes, and then harder again for the next ascendancy nodes, etc. However, you can skip doing the Sanctum. I'm not personally a big fan of it. Obviously, I'll try it in early access. Obviously, I'll try as much as I can. The other choice during early access is to do the Ultimatum version with, allegedly the Trial Master. And it's the same process there. The harder difficulty, you need to finish that as hard the best you can. And when you do that, you'll get access to your first 2 ascendancy nodes. And we don't know what the third one will be, which is the one that's going to be available for us in the full launch, is what they've said. So what I really like about this is a lot of people don't like the lab. I'm not a big fan of the lab in PoE 1, but in PoE 2 now we'll have 2 in early access, 3 later, different options. You don't have to stick to one. You can mix and match them however you want, but it gives you options to choose the kind of trial you want to do to ascend. And I think that's a fair way to keep the idea of you doing an actual trial while still giving the player agency of the decision making and the options to choose which one they prefer to do ascend with. So I do like these kind of approaches and the way they've developed the game, but I'll again emphasize on the fact that there is an obnoxious amount of content in early access. Like, it's crazy amount of content. Super excited for it. There will be 3 ascendancy classes for every class in the game. That's going to be 36 ascendancy classes in the total. However, for the launch of the early access, we'll have 6 classes, and these 6 classes will only have 2 ascendancies, which they've shown in this reveal video. I will be making separate videos for each of these classes through the days coming during the week and the next week. Starting with the Witch, because the Witch had some really, really cool things going for them. However, there was no Necromancer. So I don't know if their plan is to make a Necromancer thing. As the third one, I have no idea. But what I will be able to tell you is that you can, in the comments down below, let me know if you have any specific questions you want me or my co-host Darth Microtransaction to ask Mr. Jonathan himself, because this coming Sunday, November 24th, 9 p.m. CET, which I believe is 12 o'clock noon PT, we will be having Jonathan over on the Tavern Talk podcast for a nice little interview. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to see if we can fit any or most of them into this podcast, and we're going to have a good time. Obviously, that podcast will be uploaded on this YouTube channel, and that's basically the take I have. I'm blown away with the graphics, the fact that they have so much content in the game. It's absolutely obnoxious. Again, I can sit there and rant about it all I want, but as soon as I go into a topic, I will be talking for hours. So to respect your time, I'll leave links in the descriptions down below if you guys want to watch the full reveal reaction from me. You can check that out. Make sure you get all the content, all the details, information. It's a very long video, so do check that out if you want to. And I will instead leave you for this video by saying thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys appreciate the content being posted. I'm having a great time with this, and I will be running an uncapped subathon for the 6th of December release. And I'll see you guys live on stream or on the podcast or in the next video. So till then, stay safe, keep rocking, and have a great fucking night.